you telling us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been a social worker, why you became a social worker, and also your degree.
Hmm. Well, I guess I'll start with the degree. I have a master's from NYU, which pretty much is a clinical emphasis. NYU considers themselves to be the clinical aspects of providing a social work education, which means it's pretty much analytical,
Okay.
really trying to look at things from a psychodynamic frame of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Um, why did I decide to become a social worker? I was actually studying theology
Wow.
at Oakwood College in Alabama, and one of my professors told me that I studied too much. I was trying to make a science out of the Bible, which oftentimes, yeah, she requested or recommended that maybe social work would probably be a better fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I really valued her a lot, and I felt that what she was actually telling me at the time was valid.
Okay.
So I changed and I became a social worker.
Okay.
I didn't finish my degree at Oakwood. I finished it at York College
Okay.
because Oakwood was a pretty religious institution. And I came up during the time when my mom was going through some crisis, and I took a couple of courses at York. I liked the curriculum, so I decided I would actually finish there. So I finished my bachelor's there, and then I went to NYU in the advanced standing program. Actually did a year, and then I actually obtained my master's
Oh, wow. So you have right now a master's in social
in
work.
social work with the credentials, licensed clinical social worker with an R, which is a part of the licensing process for you to actually become licensed within the state of New York, which actually allows you to provide expert uh, testimony while in court. Also allows you to also bill third-party reimburser
Okay.
for services that you render.
Okay. So currently you are with school, correct?
Right. I work with a day treatment program within a hospital, and I also have this, my private practice,
Okay.
and I also do some consult- consultation with another agency in Harlem.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about your role at the agency and what's the name of the agency that you work for, or the
Ah,
school, I should say.
hmm. The agency is Brooklyn Children. I don't know, quite sure if you could actually repeat this back because I
Yes.
was there. Yeah, it's
Okay.
Brooklyn Children's Center.
Okay.
It's an organization that actually, again, as I indicated, provide day treatment. It's a day treatment program. It's really the Board of Ed,
Okay.
uh, co-located within an OMH facility
Okay.
where they actually provide academic as well as mental health services, to include psychiatric services to kids who are considered to be high risk for not access to a conduct disorder, but psychiatric illnesses. So a lot of the kids there are actually taking meds, required to take meds, and actually have to see a psychiatrist on a daily basis.
Okay. And what is the mission of the agency overall?
Uh, I guess it's to provide mental health services, which is again psychiatric or what I would call medical services to youths who are pretty much suffering from psychiatric illnesses, to actually maintain them within the school system while at the same time helping them to obtain an education so that they can actually move on and become productive members within our society.
Okay.
At the same time, reduce the length of stay that these kids would actually wind up spending in what you would call residential RTC or RTF programs.
Okay. Alrighty. So as part of your education, what skills do you find that you implement the most?
I think I think my education is an ongoing process, and I truly believe in the code of ethics that says we consistently have to increase our knowledge base. So I am constantly looking at what is the best practice that actually fits into the foundation that I established while I was at NYU, which again is the psychodynamic framework. So I'm consistently looking at that. Um, and as a result, I find myself to be able to do what you would call individual and family therapy um, in a way that again, enhance a person's functioning, enhance the way they think,
Mm-hmm.
enhance their capacity
Mm-hmm.
to be empathic. We call it mentalization.
Okay.
Is not only to see things from your perspective, but to also be able to see things from
Like
the
this.
other person's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
which oftentimes is one of those things that kids tend not to be able to do,
Mm-hmm.
especially the kids that we work with, because they've been so traumatized. And oftentimes, trauma means that someone has engaged or used a child in a way that is not in the child's best interests, but the child become, how would you say it, some type of pawn that is being used, and as a result, whatever the child actually brings into this world is not valued, is not respected. One of the things that I've always heard grown ups say to kid, you have to show me respect, but never pondering that they also have to show a child respect. So if the child doesn't comply with what the grown up is pretty much setting forth, then grown up is a giant in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So a child oftentimes is punished.
Mm-hmm.
So again, the child needs and the way the child is actually viewing the world is not valued. And I think what that does, it sets in stage the beginning of a child not being able to trust themselves internally, to trust what's going on in the environment, and they're pretty much fragmented. I try to help a child to restore that. I think Bowlby would look at those things and saying, well, it's the attachment behavior from the parents that actually facilitate this fragmented attachment within the child. So the child has a very, very difficult time negotiating within their environment. Again, I find my primary role is trying to help kids and family to do that, especially kids.
Okay.
I love working with kids.
Okay. Okay. And if they were to cut down on counseling, how would it affect the students pretty much in your environment?
Right now, it would affect them tremendously because we're pretty much working right now with a skeleton crew as it is. You know, you're talking about a therapist being assigned 18 to 20 cases
Wow.
where you're supposed to be providing therapy and case management at the same time. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is one of the only organizations that I've seen this to this degree. You know, that's a lot of cases to where now you're talking about you're doing a lot of different assessments. You're doing treatment plan. You're doing crisis intervention. You're doing behavior mod, and then you're doing individual sessions. You're doing family session. It's really a lot of work, and you know to reduce the staff any further. Um, I'm gonna be. I don't even know how they do it now. I'm sitting
Wow.
back sometime and I'm scratching my head. How are they getting this thing done? But it
Okay.
seems like folks are there and they're doing it.
Yeah.
So my thing is this: if they're doing it, I should be able to do it too. So as a
True.
new guy on the team, I'm trying to see how it all works. You know,
Okay.
you asked me that question. Maybe 6 months from now, I'll be able to give you a real straight answer. Because
Okay.
again, I look at what the folks are using and what they're working with, and I have to give them credit. And I'm just trying to see right now if I can actually do and meet the task the same way those folks are doing it. The thing is this though, I have to be true to it. That means
Okay.
if I'm supposed to see a kid for 45 minutes per session, I'm going to see a kid for 45 minutes per session. And I have to see how the paperwork get done. Am I getting it done during the course of the business day, or am I doing some of this stuff at night when I go home?
Mm-hmm.
I will be willing to do it now at night when I go home, but at some point I'm going to say, you know what, this process doesn't work and someone needs to fix it,
Yeah.
and I'll be the first person to be yelling like hell that you know what, something is wrong here.
Okay. So, thank you for answering honestly. So, Vivian, you said you love kids. So, have you ever had to remove any kids from their environment at home?
It is something that I don't like to do. And I haven't had to remove any kids, but I've had to make phone calls when kids have to be removed. And as you asked me that question, the kid that popped into my head was a kid that I met when I first became a clinician. And if I had it to do over again, I probably wouldn't have made that call, especially after I saw how the kid wind up in the system. And he's probably about 21 now, and he's just ready to be adopted.
Wow.
And this kid has been in numerous residential facility and home age hospital. And the sad thing about it is this: there was a couple of times when I was at the courts, and I would go to Brooklyn Children, and I would actually see him on the campus.
Okay.
And kids at a place, they look wretched.
Hmm.
It's like no one care about them,
Okay.
you know. And it's a hard thing to see a child taken from a family and is being raised by an institution.
Yeah.
Um, and the institution can never do it, because what kids need to do is to be in families that are loving, that are nurturing. When you have a kid in an institution, you have so many different people that are trying to help them to organize themselves, and that process in itself becomes fragmented because this child doesn't have any one family or individuals that is doing that for them. And you have individuals that are coming from so many different walks of life with so many different ideas.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, I'm going to be honest with you, some of them can be very cruel to kids. You know, it's just like we said earlier, you know, in order for you to be able to do this work correctly, your eyes must be open. You must deal with your shit first. And you have a lot of people that haven't dealt with their stuff, and what happens is they get into situation, and these kids can trigger them to where what is going on now, these folks are actually experiencing things that they experienced when they were in their family. As a result, they develop a sense of hopelessness.
Yeah.
They can't tolerate that hopelessness. They can't tolerate going back to their own childhood. So one of the things that they start to do, start to identify with the aggressor, which oftentimes was their parents, who would tell them, you must do this way, you must do that way,
Yeah.
or I will whip your ass.
Yeah.
You know, and you do have folks in there, they're not literally whipping these kids, but just the way they approach them, it's even more than a whipping, because the psychological damage that these kids actually have to undergo with these folks is very, very painful. And again, it's because these folks haven't gotten in touch with their own stuff.
Okay. Seems like it's a very sensitive topic
It is,
for
you
you.
know, I really appreciate what I do, and I love kids,
Okay.
you know, and I don't like to see. Now, if you was to ask me something that would set me at odds with one of my colleagues, is to see one of them hurt a kid.
Yeah.
I don't give a damn who you are. I am reporting you.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah. You can't do that in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because again,
I mean, it's the right thing to do
yes,
now.
and
Yeah.
I look at kids as being helpless.
Yeah.
Okay, we're there to protect them. And I can't see anything a child will do that a grown up should feel so intimidated or threatened by, especially if you have a kid in a lockup institution.
Yeah.
These kids are not coming in there with knives and guns. You know, they come in there
For
with
help.
words.
Pretty much come in for
For
help.
help.
Yeah.
And they, you know, you have, they come in there with words. And I hate to hear when folks tell a kid, well, you shouldn't be cursed, you're being disrespectful. You know what? Sometimes that's the least of our problems.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you, all these kids have a right to be cursing the whole damn world.
Yeah.
You know, they have been failed. You know, that's why they are the way they are.
True.
You know?
So with this topic being so sensitive for you, Vivian, do you receive counseling yourself?
Absolutely. And this is why I can actually go there and come back. You
Okay.
know, I believe that if we're going to do this, we have to be in counseling. And the thing is this, you know what? We're human beings,
Yeah.
and we ought to be sensitive to certain things. And the minute we lose our sensitivity, then you know what we'll become? We'll become robots. And I'm going to be honest with you, robots cannot provide therapy.
Yeah.
So kids need individuals that are sensitive, that are going to be in tune with their needs, that is going to be in touch with their own stuff. Yeah, there are nights when I go home and I cry because I see kids suffering. That makes me a human being. And you know what? It makes me a wonderful therapist too, because you know what? I understand where that is coming